Hi folks, good evening. I'm raised a Catholic, as most people would know by now, and I am a long way away from the Catholic Church and its belief system now. But you don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. One of the things that I found difficult when I became born again was that the attitude of the Christian Church towards communion, because some people didn't even go to communion every week or every month. Some people just went once a year. Some people went with a lot of preparation, some went with none. And as a little kid, I'm an altar boy, I'm only about 7 or 8. And I have to walk, this is like a sob story, because I had to walk 2 miles to church to actually be an altar boy. And Mass at 6:15 in the morning, and the priest there, if you were late, he'd give you a smack across the ears as you walked in, which didn't make you feel real spiritual. But we used to have, I used to have communion every day when I would go to Mass every day, and then I came into a place where I was receiving communion, and there were little kids receiving communion, and they had no understanding of what they were receiving, and they could be giving each other a bit of a punch in the line coming up to get it. And I found that very hard to make adjustments. Now, I have made adjustments, and I believe all who come to communion wanting to glorify God in some way as they understand it, I think it's okay. And I think that the very fact too that I was born on September 14th, you put in your diary for my birthday, it's way away, and say, but that is in the Catholic liturgy or the Catholic roadmap of, it's called the Feast of the Triumph of the Cross. The longer I've walked with God, the more I've seen the absolute triumph of the cross. And the fact that the cross is the finished work of God. And that when Jesus says it was finished, it said, he who knew no sin became sin for us, because cursed is he who hangs on a tree. And many people, I believe, walk needlessly under curses because they don't appropriate what the cross has done for them. The cross and even the name Christ talks about the burden-lifting, yoke-destroying power of God. Burden-lifting, yoke-destroying. Not just to lift the burden and let you drag the yoke of it along. And Jesus tells us to take his yoke, because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And I'd have to say to you, it sometimes doesn't feel like his yoke is easy. It hasn't felt like his burden is light. Until I found out they were not yokes or burdens that God gave me, but yokes or burdens that the devil put on me, or people put on me. As we share this communion today, we remember Susie Tollers particularly, as we received communion, who was in need of God's healing touch and the reality of the burden-lifting, yoke-destroying power of God. On the night that he was betrayed, I've been betrayed, and more than once. He took bread and he broke it, and he gave it to his friends and said, take it, eat it, because this is my body which will be given up for you. That's it, you know. First time I tried communion wine, was in the altar boys sacristy at St Christopher's Catholic Church when I was 8, and I had a little taste of it out of the cupboard. Someone immediately dobbed me in, and I got in more trouble than it was worth. But when Jesus had finished his meal, my father was an alcoholic, could not trust himself to drink communion wine. He said, once I got the taste for the sun, it'll bring me undone. So he would have liked this juice, and it wouldn't have challenged his addictions. But he used to spiritually go to communion. He so wanted to receive the communion wine as it really was, not as just fermented grape juice. When supper was ended, he took the cup. He thanked you. He gave the cup to his friends and said, take and drink, because this is the cup of my blood, which was given up for you and for all mankind. Let's drink together. This talk tonight is called Crashing Through. Did you hear that? If you live with me, you would find that I crash about a bit. I have been known to break things by mistake, Susie. I've been known to fix things and break them while I was fixing them. In Acts chapter 1 it says, and they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day's journey. That was considered to be about half a mile. In Jerusalem, when you go to the Olivet Church where the Garden of Gethsemane is, you overlook the city of Jerusalem and you walk down from the garden into the city of Jerusalem. And I guess it'd probably be about half a mile. And when they come in, they went to the upper room where lived both Peter and James and John and Andrew and Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon Zelotes and Judas, the brother of James. And they continued in one accord in prayer and supplication with the women and Mary, the mother of the brethren. At about 3 years old, a guy called Mike Mays was accidentally blinded by a chemical explosion. And so he lost his sight completely. In later life, by a very, very gifted ophthalmologist, he had an operation and got his sight back. But for all his life, up to when he was about 40, he had no sight. But he was a guy who was determined to get round. And he so learned the echoes and the shadows that no one knew he was blind unless they got close to him and could see his eyes, because his eyes were colourless. And he used to get around by crashing through. So if he thought that's the way he had to go, that's what he did. And so he also lived his life with a lot of bumps, bruises, cuts and contusions on his body. He used to go and play football. Imagine playing football as a blind man against neighbourhood kids who could see. They'd be giving you no. I used to play football when I was a kid growing up. We sometimes would play all day. It wasn't uncommon to have like a 4-hour half of football and then change ends. In the end, you didn't score a try because you couldn't lift your legs up. where there's any spiritual, if you've got a spiritual inclination, we have to understand that any involvement in spiritual revival or leadership, it's gonna tax everything about it. It's gonna take what we've got. And often we're gonna feel blind and we're not gonna know what to do. We have the Word of God as our guide and as the anchor for our soul, but often we're gonna have to crash through. And people are not going to care if we said excuse me or not. They're not going to want us to crash through, because it might mean, Matty, that they have to crash through as well, and they don't want to. James Allen said, "You'll become as small as your controlling desire, as great as your dominant aspiration." That's a great word, that one. Johnson said, "Great works are performed not by strength but by perseverance. He that shall walk with vigour 3 hours a day will pass 7 years, a space equal to that which circumnavigates the globe." So if you were to walk, you got up in the morning, you said, "Well, I'm going to walk at a fast clip for 3 hours a day, and 7 years you would have walked around the world." We could start you out at Kernhill and off you go. Milne said, "Virtue lies in the struggle, not the prize." Bruyere said, no road is too long to the man who advances deliberately and without undue haste. But honours are too distant for man who prepares as himself for them with patience. Carlyle said, "Every noble work is at first impossible." I was thinking today, as I was praying, and thinking of the many miracles that we've all seen, but how many we need to see. How many people we've prayed for who have been healed, and how many have not been healed. And I'm struck by the fact that we are facing now the greatest outpouring the world has ever seen. Since the time of Jesus, we're about to undergo a tremendous outpouring. The Bible tells us, it prepares us, it tells us that that Jesus is coming back for a church as spotless and glorious. We see that a bishop was arrested for historical trial offences on Friday. A bishop was arrested for historical trial offences on Friday. So we see a lot of the junk has been uncovered. Throughout Scripture there are exhortations and challenges brought to us that urge us to crash through every obstacle and hindrance. In Luke 9 it says, "He said to them all, if any man come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake will save it. For what is a man advantaged if he gain the whole world but lose himself and be cast away?" In Hebrews chapter 11 it says, "By faith Moses, when he had come to years, refused to be called the son of Sarah's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater than the riches of the treasures of Egypt." In Daniel 1 it says, "And Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor his wine, nor would he drink. Therefore, he requested the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. See, we live in an underestimated day. My wife got up on Friday, and she was just doing a simple little task to go down and take my daughter to Katoomba to do a bit of shopping. Except when they went to get a bit of shopping, the car broke down. Hers. And so, like most NRMA members, she rang the NRMA, who when they came said they couldn't tow her car because it was in a car park. Finally, she got them to agree to tow the car, and they said but they couldn't do it that day, they'd do it the next day, and they'd be there between 8 and 10, where they didn't come at that time. One driver just drove off and left a single woman by herself with her car. So Tanya's day had a plan. And when my wife has a plan for her day, she just doesn't have one event. She'll have a list of things that she's got to do, each one depending upon another before she can go on to the next. So we can't determine how our day is going to end up. And we have a lot of days that end up how we don't want them to. Far too often in life, both spiritually and materially, there is a tendency to underestimate the distance of a day's journey. Sometimes a day takes twice as long to finish. You know, one purpose in life ought to be, like that of a river. If you go to where a river starts, there's eddies going one way and the other, like the river's making up its mind which way it wants to run. And then after it's run for a while, the eddies get less, the direction of the river gets stronger. Tanya and I had the privilege of going to Niagara Falls. We were going to a conference at the Airport Vineyard Church, which was a life-changing conference for us. And while we were there, we were able to go to Niagara Falls because the person who worked at the flight centre in Springwood said, Mr. Clark, if you want to go to Niagara Falls, go down to the casino section in Toronto and get on the casino bus, which will take you to Niagara Falls for nothing.
It was $6 instead of like $95.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we got on the casino bus. Unfortunately, it had a problem, Susie. I don't know if you have a policy on public spitting, but the bus was filled with people who was just spitting on the floor. So we get to Toronto, right? They park out the front of the casino. We walk into the casino for nothing, straight through the casino, and there is Niagara Falls. I don't know what I was expecting with Niagara Falls, but it was a bit disappointing to me because it wasn't very high, Susie, and the falls were frozen apart in the middle where they were running. So someone said, you've got to get on the Maid of the Mist. So we walked down this ramp and we buy tickets to get on a boat called the Maid of the Mist. Went right up into the belly of the falls. water coming over the sides. They gave us a poncho, forget it. And we could see that the closer you got to the action, that's where you got the action. We can look at stuff from a long way away, and it seems like nothing. In a little alcove next to the Uniting Church in Parramatta, on a Good Friday, we had a dinner for homeless people, and one person donated 80 fillets of barramundi, but 120 people came, and we had 20 in the team, and we were able to feed everyone and take fish home. We saw food multiply before our eyes over and over and over again. When you take an event like that, you look at it in the light of biblical truth, and then you say what you're seeing, it does something to you. And it releases within you the deep belief that you're going to crash through if you've got a problem. I see people I know crash through the most tremendous personal things. You may think that we know how to value noble things like revival, consecration, prayer and growth. But until we finally experience them, it's only at that point we know their true worth. I'm in here one night and I was worshipping God, and it was dark, but somewhere around me was a glow, and I lifted my hands up like this, and I felt feathers, and I was literally under the shadow of his wings, and I had a hold of a foot of an eagle. What do you do with that? Well, Mary took all these things in her heart and treasured them. And when I get in trouble, I regurgitate these things. I think of them again. And I say, remember when? Remember when I'm walking on the street with no money and look down and I've got a $50 note under my foot. Remember when I've gone to my letterbox and found money and found things like that. I know it's like that discouragement, this tugging at my heart, in the middle of trying to encourage others. I could be trying to encourage Susie and Cole while I'm feeling very discouraged. Doubt tearing your faith down, you're trying to patch up the deteriorated faith in others. To endure criticism that will drain the life out of every spiritual vision that you've ever had. Desire ebbing out of your soul while you keep your game face on and go one more round with the devil. High aspirations only to be stifled by the daily responsibilities of life. Your journey will be forged as you move forward. You don't get your journey forged by running backwards or running away. You can't, the first lesson is you cannot underestimate the power of a day. The second lesson is that your journey will have its share of contradictions. Your third lesson is that the journey will be completed only by moving forward. I get an email the other day from a woman saying, do you still manufacture anointing oil? Because I've run out and I found it most helpful. Now, I personally haven't used oil on myself or others for a long time, but it was a big memory jogger. A big memory jogger. In 2 Samuel it says that David went on. It also says about Jacob that he went on. It also said the priest went on in front of the children carrying the ark. Elijah went on with Elijah. The dilemma of life often presents itself so that we get stuck in one place that we should have moved on from. We don't go on. Too many want to come out at their points of success and revival. They don't want to come out at the points where they fail, and neither should they. The only time to come out is when God tells you to come out. No other time. We're faced, as we choose to crash through, with an opportunity to prove who we are. An opportunity to stay with it. An opportunity to turn lives around, to improve your mind, to form good habits. You know, I'd have to say to you, I've formed some good habits in the last fortnight. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I'll already pollute them, but I'm saying I've performed some habits I've been trying to change for years. An opportunity to improve your character, to be useful, to invest your life and not waste it, and to have a plan for your future. This is a wonderful thing. The word opportunity comes from the word signifying at port or in the harbour. When you're at port or in the harbour, you have an opportunity to set sail. Hoist your sails. I could sing you the Beach Boys song. Hoist up the sloop John B. Hoist up the longside sail. We need to be sailing, not flopping around. I pray for you and I pray for myself. I pray for all the members of the church. I pray for all of our families that the blessings of God will be on us and overtake us. Amen.